Welcome back, everyone, and it's Monday. Yes, another week in 2020. Oh, what does this week hold? Well, it starts off the way that 2020 has gone so far. They've only gone and found signs of life on Venus. We're going to be talking about that. I'll be chilling with the chat room, and we'll be getting ready for the main Kev Baker show in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. Hold on tight. I'll be right with you. There we go. New music. How cool's that? You know, a bit of music that probably even Joe Joseph, nah, he wouldn't approve of it. But let's be honest, he still wouldn't approve of my music. But we're back. It's Monday. It's another week of live streams, live shows. What a week this is already shaping up to be, because tonight you're stuck with yours truly. Yes, I am going. Are you ready for this, Leslie, out there in the chat room? This will be like quantum music to your ears. We're going very quantum on the main Kev Baker show later today. I say later, 55 minutes from now. You don't have long to wait. So we'll be getting into some of that. We'll be talking about some news as well. Some woo as well on the main show. And today, like I say, every kind of day in 2020, you kind of look through the cracks in your fingers to see what the headlines are, right? And it was my mum earlier on today. She messaged me. I thought, oh no, not another game of Scrabble. Right, it's too early for Scrabble. But no, it was actually a story that we're going to get into in just a moment. It's really interesting. It's really cool. If you're into space like I am, and I know a few of you are, a few of you are absolutely vehemently against talking about space. I get that. But hey, it's my stream, and I'll talk about what I want to, right? I'm only joking, folks. But we're going to be getting into that. And I'll be coming into the chat in just a moment as well to give you a shout out. There's only 40 odd people here. It's how we like it. It's how we roll on KBS too. And I'm not even going to say the memberships are on the way, but they're on the way. They will be here soon. I want to thank everyone for supporting the channel. I was messaging with somebody earlier on, a good friend on Discord, and I was telling them that, you know, when I look at the past couple of months, dang, it's only been the kind of camaraderie we've had in here, the disco experience as well. It's really kept me going. I can imagine most people are feeling like that right now, this year that we're having, no matter what your job is, no matter what it is you have to do every day. it's just like hauling ass every day, right? And then you throw into the mix all these crazy stories going on. I don't know, it's just another crazy day in the Matrix. And it's my roundabout, long-winded way of saying thank you to all of you out there for supporting the show, for sharing the links, for just being here, for just being you, for just being real. In 2020, being real is a rare commodity indeed. And you people out there, you've got it all going on. So who am I talking about? I'm talking about the Wookiee, Marty, Jose, or Jose Ramon Francis, Zadok07, I like that name. Zadok, we like that. We also have Sidvich. Nice to see you, brother. Don't be sharing links like that. You don't share links to the story I'm about to break on YouTube. I'm only joking, bro. I'm joking. Bearded is kicking about in there as well. My good friend. Not the gerbils, the gherkins. They're in the house. They're all the way from Poland. We've got Norway in with Sid. We've got Marty over there in America. Android. You've been sorely missed, Android. We've all been talking about you. We've all been saying, where is that Android 17 character? Just not the same with you. Not here. But it's the same now. We're back to normal. We're good to go. Good to see you, Android. And Android, hey, I get it. I watch people religiously for maybe a month and then something else will come up and I forget to watch them. Never, ever need to explain any gap in the watching, bro. It's all good here. Or sister. It's a bit kind of vague. It's not really easy to figure out your gender with the Android name, but we'll go there. Maybe you're genderless. It's allowed these days, I think. Polly Nation is in there. And Polly and Jules, I think it's Jules, will be running the movie music night over in Discord after the Kev Baker show. And we'll drop a link in there for anyone who wants to join in. The only one rule. Well, two rules. Be real and don't be a captain of the Kush canoe? No, the douche canoe. The Kush canoe. That sounds like some kind of mountain over in India, doesn't it? Probably culturally inappropriate, but hey, there we go. We have also got, I think we've done Bearded. Leslie's kicking about in there. Onslow. Jules, yep, don't forget, it's Media Monday. Sorry, Jules, I called it Movie Monday. My bad. I'll be getting a bit of Starship on again. That's a quality tune, man. Great film, Mannequin. Everyone loved Mannequin if you're of that age, right? Is it Kim Cattrall? That wasn't the reason I watched it at all. No, obviously not. Little Glob, good to see you. And if you get any more psychic messages for me, please feel free to send them through. That is some really good stuff. Saint Marionette. Who else we got? Who was first today? Can I get up there? Bearded was the first. We've got Sniff. Oh, yes. Okay. Sniff. If that's what you think, my brother, that is very, very good. I don't think you're going to really enjoy the streams that we do around here because I think we have a consensus that planets are pretty real. I'm just saying. So I get a crazy wig like Taculus. I hate his name. Giorgio. That's what I call him. Big Giorgio. Giorgio's got the best hair in the industry, man. What industry? The ancient alien industrial complex, obviously. Ancient industrial complex, whatever you call it. So then, listen, let's get into it. I don't want to waste any more time because this is news that really, when I seen it today, it's one of the headlines I thought, wow, need to go and check that out. Lydia sneaking in there as well. Strawn. Sean, not Strawn, definitely Sean. Carol, good to see you. But yeah, so Mum sent me through the link. Scientists detect signs of extraterrestrial life on Venus. Whoa, stop the bus. So when I went to go and look at the story, I thought it's probably going to be another one of these when you start to get to about paragraph 2 or 3. And I know most people don't read that far down. Not you people, but most people don't. And I thought it would be the same old crap, you know, ifs and maybes and buts. But no, this is actually very interesting. Very interesting for a number of reasons. And Venus, when you look at it, it should be totally inhabitable, right? If that's even a word. You can't stay there. No oxygen there, right? But it's long been theorized, hypothesized, more accurately, probably to say romanticized in novels and science fiction, that perhaps there could be entities, creatures, beings that don't conform to life as we know it because there's no oxygen there, it's high in phosphorus. And people have kind of thrown about the idea that you might find life forms up in the upper atmosphere. And that's one of the first things that kind of came into my mind today before going and looking what we're going to go and take a look at now. So I'll bring you over here. And folks, we only need 4 more subscribers. And then we'll be at 4,900 subs on the channel. I'm desperate to get the 5,000 by Christmas. If we keep going at this rate, we'll do it no problem whatsoever. Okay, we'll be on our way to 5,100. So again, big thank you to all of you out there. So then, let's get to the story that started it off. And I know, the BBC. But listen, there's headlines about this over in our favourite mysterious universe. I've got other stories here about it. I'm not going to read out the full story because I know King Sweet doesn't like people that read. He doesn't like people that reads on a stream. So I'm only going to read a little bit of the story, King. Don't you worry. I'm not going to bore you to death with my crappy reading, brother. It says here, is there life floating in the clouds of Venus? So it says it's an extraordinary possibility, which would require what? Extraordinary evidence, right? Is the idea that living organisms are floating in the clouds of the planet Venus. Now, before we go even further, do you remember a story a few years ago how we had invisible terrestrial entities, ITEs? Remember that? And it was a guy with something called the Santilli telescope. His name was Santilli, funnily enough. And he'd been looking out into space for, I can't remember what he was looking for, but one day something went wrong and the telescope was kind of just lying horizontal and it was daytime. And he started to see things moving about in the atmosphere, right? Well, I'm just throwing that out there. If just, you know, not to prove that things can live in the atmosphere, but to show that this kind of thing, this kind of talk, it shouldn't be new if you've been following these kind of stories for a few years. And we'll take a look at the invisible terrestrial entities. There were 2 types, and we'll take a look at that before we go today, right? It says here, but this is what astronomers are now considering after detecting a gas in the atmosphere that they can't explain. Now, that gas in question is phosphine, a molecule made up of 1 phosphorus atom and 3 hydrogen atoms. Now, on Earth, phosphine is associated with life, with microbes living in the guts of animals like penguins or in oxygen-poor environments such as swamps. And for sure, you can make it industrially, but there are no factories on Venus. And there are certainly no penguins. So that's the story there. That's as much as I'll go with that. You know, one of the other stories I was reading today about this was talking about how another way that you find phosphine being generated naturally in our environment down here, which is far different than Venus, is when you get fish that are decaying, when they're rotting, that actually causes this gas to be released. Now, the fact that it's 1 part phosphorus, that shouldn't be a surprise at all because of how phosphorus rich we're talking about when it comes to Venus. So I'm going to read a little bit more, King. Forgive me, okay? Give me leeway for just a couple more paragraphs here, right? It says, so why is the gas there? 50 kilometers up from the planet's surface. So Professor Jane Greaves from Cardiff University, UK, and colleagues are asking just that question. And they've published a paper in the journal Nature Astronomy detailing their observations of phosphine at Venus, as well as the investigation they've made to try and show this molecule could be natural, non-biological origin. You know, there's so little that we actually know about what shapes and forms that life may take. that really all I can say about this story is it's interesting. You know, it might seem anomalous to us because of what we think we know. And we think we know it all. Uh, that is definitely up for debate, right? But Venus, it's interesting in itself because I don't know if or how many of you know that Venus was quite high up the list of priorities for how to put this, the bad guys in World War II. We had Werner von Braun. He came over, obviously, ended up heading up NASA, that we've talked about a lot. He had this conversation with Carol Rosen about first it'll be the kind of the Russians, then it'll be these kind of rogue states in the Middle East, and then it'll be the asteroids, and then the final card. We've all heard that, right? And he had big ambitions to put man on the moon. But less publicly known is the fact that he had equal ambitions to go to Venus. And Venus, again, for somebody like me, it brings up memories of computer games. Yes, it does. We've often talked about computer games the same as movies, potentially hiding things in plain sight, pre-programming, stuff like that. Well, in the game franchise, which is, if I need to find this here now, Wolfenstein, it actually features Venus quite prominently. In fact, if I bring you over here and we take a little look at some of the Wolfenstein lore, then you come down here and it says, quote, after you atom bomb the Bejesus out of the old Oberkommando at Roswell, the bad guys from World War II ran scared. They took all their top brass, all their top military secrets, and they established the Oberkommando on Venus. Venus, the planetary body. Venus in space, man. And it says here, you can see the poster that they use in the actual, in the game. And next stop, Venus. And this is all about terraforming Venus. It says the second planet from the sun, Venus, is only slightly smaller than Earth and is covered by a toxic, extremely hot, and extremely dense atmosphere of mostly carbon dioxide. Now, the bad guys, having colonized the moon, have also begun colonizing Venus as well, starting by building a massive floating city in the upper atmosphere, where the conditions are comparatively Earth-like. The atmospheric base appears to be supported by a second base located on the surface, just beneath blah blah blah. And I find it quite interesting because at one time, and maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, we can kind of romanticize about this, but we often talk about Mars, right? And I often cite the fact that Cairo in Arabic is Al-Kahari or Al-Kara. Whatever the pronunciation of its Arabic name, it literally translates to base of Mars or base from Mars. So there's your connection with the kind of Martian stuff, and we've seen what could be, I'm not saying it is, but could be archaeological kind of relics, remains up on the surface of Mars, right? We often talk about how Mars may once have looked very Earth-like. And in fact, we've brought up on the show many times the possibility that maybe we ourselves could be Martian. Sounds a bit out there, I know that, but did we come from Mars at one point too here? Was there some cataclysm? I don't know. I don't think we are from here originally, or I don't think we were, how would you put it? Invented, devised on this planet. You look at Caucasian people in particular. Our skin is barely even, adapted over millennia to handle the heat from our local star. And it's not exactly as if it's a searing heat, right? But many people get badly sunburnt. our eyes. We often have to wear sunglasses, right? Because for some reason our eyes, after being here for however long, we still haven't adapted to the type of light that comes through. And when you think about it, if we were from here, we're of here, then we've always had that same light. So why is there that kind of discrepancy? Why aren't we finely tuned to the planet we're from? What if it was Mars? What if it was Venus? Don't run away yet. I haven't totally lost my mind. Only 3/4. I ain't the first person to kind of throw that out there. And if we come over to an article just last year at the old memory bank, I can't remember what I'd done 3 hours ago, but I remembered an article about this. Check this out. Could Venus at one time have been habitable? Now, obviously, artist's impression there. I quite like how the land's above the clouds. That's a pretty weird one, right? It does look like the land is above the clouds there. Come on, tell me. Yeah? I know. I know, I'm just being picky. But, not going to read it all, King. Don't go away just yet. Don't go anywhere. I'm just winding up the King. We're having some fun. Zoe, good to see you, sister. Onslow. Onslow, Kev, scientists have explained all this very clearly. Now, Onslow, are you telling me to shut up? Are you trying to say that I'm repeating things that people already know? Because if you are, then I really have to pay heed and take attention to it and pay attention to what you've said. Because the last thing I'd want to be doing is boring any of you about here, right? It says Venus may have been a temperate planet hosting liquid water for 2 or 3 billion years, until a dramatic transformation started over 700 million years ago, and it resurfaced around 80% of the planet. It sounds like somebody was out there terraforming it 700 million years ago. They probably weren't. A study presented today at the EPSC DPS joint meeting 2019 by Michael Way of the Goddard Institute of Space Sciences gives us a new view of Venus's climatic history and may have implications for the habitability, I got it right, of exoplanets in similar orbits. It says 40 years ago, NASA's Pioneer Venus mission found tantalizing hints that Earth's twisted sister planet may have once had shallow oceans worth of water. To see if Venus might have had a stable climate capable of supporting liquid water, Dr. Way and his colleague Anthony Del Genio have created a series of 5 simulations assuming different levels of water coverage. So, long story short, it could have been habitable at one point. Could have been habitable. Now, that doesn't mean it was, doesn't mean that we're from there, but I find it interesting. And I find this story interesting for a number of reasons as well. And we've been talking a heck of a lot about disclosure. Everyone has. But we've also been kind of looking at Project Bluebeam as well. In Project Bluebeam, we can expand and we can really play about with that, because in the end of the day, nobody believes one word that NASA says anyway, right? Most people out there will say NASA, never a straight answer. But because of our confirmation bias, this is a perfect example. Something like Project Bluebeam, we're all into it, right? But at the very basis of that conspiracy is a NASA document. The same NASA that we say never gives us a straight answer. So this is why when I kind of talk about Project Bluebeam, I tend to play about with it because I think it's a very good idea. It's a viable option. I don't know how real it is. However, we do know we're moving into a new age, right? I mean, you have taken a look around about the world this year. Things are changing. And part of that change, well, you need to get rid of some of the old stuff. And maybe some of your more organized religions. You need to somehow get people who are 100% bought into all of that to change their mind completely and come to some new understanding about how we got here, what the whole thing's all about. And if you start throwing stories like life on Venus into the mix, bearing in mind that it's next door to us, trillions of planets that we may or may not ever know of, right? All of the options, all of the potential chances for life out there in the vastness of space, no matter how it got going, Big Bang, whether it contracts, who knows, simulation, whatever, right? There's a whole lot of other rocks out there where life could take hold. And when you look at where we are in space, we've got Mars on one side, and we've pretty much confirmed microbes, and when we get up there, we'll probably confirm that there was life there. We've now got the planet on the other side, the one closer to the sun. It's showing like it might have some traces of life as we don't know it. You know, what does life floating about in an atmosphere look like? What kind of shape or form does that take? Is it like big whales? I have no idea. No idea. But if there's life on either side of our one blue marble, as Carl Sagan put it, do you see how that opens up the potential astronomically, pardon the pun, for the potential of life out there in other solar systems, other galaxies, way out there, long time ago, long way ago in the future, in the past, out in the galaxy somewhere. I don't know, that was quite confusing, but do you get me? I mean, for me, as an absolute idiot, a qualified idiot, if there's a chance of life on Mars and a chance of life on Venus, our two closest planets, and we're told there's trillions of planets, you see where I'm kind of going with this, right? I think we're opening up a whole basket case of potential for life. And that could fit in to Project Bluebeam. It really could. So, anything else about Venus that I think you should know about? Well, we talked about something not too long ago. And this is a good bit of woo, actually. Because the Russians, they're probably the most knowledgeable, the most advanced when it comes to Venus. They've sent probes there, things like that. And if we come and take a look at this story here, that is really interesting. Don't worry, King. I'm not going to be reading too much. King's probably blocked me and everything by now. He's probably like, that Kev Bakery's an absolute and he probably, I'm sorry, bro. I'm sorry, I'm having a laugh. But if we come over here, okay, and this is medium.com. It says what a Soviet spacecraft on Venus can teach you about failure. Now, long story short, there was a really interesting photograph that was sent back by the probe that went up there. And it looked a little bit like this. Now, can you see why that image was of such great interest to people when they first seen it? Now, I'll tell I'll drink my coffee, but I don't think it needs too much pointing out, right? That there. Yes, this thing that seems quite removed from the front of the probe. If we come down here, this caused great controversy. People at the time, they claimed it was signs of some kind of man-made or alien artifact. Turns out, or at least the story goes, that, sorry folks, that it's part of the lens cap that came off this Russian probe. And the probe in question, it says the Soviet program to explore Venus, Venera, begun with the launch of Venera 1VA in February of 1961. And it began well enough, but soon after the launch, the second stage failed and the craft didn't escape. Okay, it wasn't that one. The USR quickly covered up this failure, up the way they covered up all of their space failures, basically by saying it was supposed to do that. And just 9 days later, they launched Venera 1, which did make it out of Earth's orbit. So the one that we're looking at then, is it was now 1965, Venera 2 was launched and successfully survived to pass by Venus. Unfortunately, communications problems plagued this mission, So we had Venera 3. Looks like that was a failure as well. No. It says was to attempt a landing on Venus, and it made it all the way into the atmosphere before losing communications. That's because of one of those big aliens that got it. So despite this, it survived long enough to become the first man-made object to ever land, albeit crash land on another planet. And then there was one more probe in the Venera program, was launched in 1965, which failed to leave Earth's orbit. And the Soviets finally caught a break and pulled ahead in 1967, when Venera 4 captured data about the atmosphere of Venus as it flew towards the surface. Now, it transmitted this data before crashing, but it was the first ever interplanetary broadcast. You know, the celebration wouldn't last long. The next probe, 5 days later, failed to escape Earth's orbit again. And in 1969, a few months before the United States landed on the moon, two more Soviet probes managed to collect data from the atmosphere of Venus and transmit it back by, or before being crushed by the incredible pressure. And finally, in 1970, after a grand total of 14 attempts and 11 failures, Venera 7 became the first man-made object to broadcast from the surface of another planet. Now, it collected data for 23 minutes before being melted and crushed by the tremendous heat and pressure, which had been vastly underestimated. And if you come down here, in fact, it wasn't there, it was another one. I had a video of it, but it was just showing you this same thing here, the same image. Interesting. I think it's interesting anyway. If we come back here, I'll play a little bit of this for you. This is kind of some of the info that's coming out about today's announcement. I'll speed it up a little. This is from, it's actually scientists, I believe, from MIT that are talking here.
Scientists led by Jane Greaves from the University of Cardiff were looking for signs, for chemical signs on Venus that shouldn't belong there. And one of such molecules is phosphine. And they, unexpectedly, they actually were able to find a signal that belongs to this molecule. So then we raced to figure out what could be the reason for phosphine on Venus. And this is where our MIT team comes, when we actually looked at all kinds of processes, chemical and physical, that could potentially produce phosphine in Venusian environments. This is an atmosphere. The surface of the planet is completely uninhabitable. The atmosphere is the only place in which life actually could, in principle, exist. And there is a belt of clouds in there. And we concluded that there is no known chemical and physical process that could conceivably produce phosphine. So this adds to the mystery of Venus. And
so there you go. Add into the mystery of Venus. I don't think we're going to be going there anytime soon, folks, unfortunately. But it makes you wonder, right? Because at the time when the whole world was lording over the kind of American NASA space program, the whole mission to the moon thing, stuff like that. You know, you had these Russian probes that were being far more daring, far more adventurous, right? But they weren't going for the moon, they were going for another planet. And it didn't last long, admittedly, when it did make it down there on its 14th attempt. But if they were doing that in 1970, and we're now in the year 2020, then the mind has to start boggling about just what the Russians and every other technologically advanced nation is really doing up there in space. It sure makes my mind boggle. So I'll be back in a moment, folks. I'm going to get a quick drink of coffee. I'm going to come into the chat, see what you think about the whole life on Venus. And then we'll head on over to the main Kev Baker show. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to be right back. Rick Anderson, loving it, brother. I love it. He says, well, you know, and he makes a good point here. If men are from Mars and women are from Venus, then they had to meet somewhere, right? So why not here? Onzo says portals for US space for AI. And what else have we got? Leslie. Dream physics are strange. If it's from another life or timeline, trust your gut. Whoa, talking about lucid dreaming in there. Dang. Zoe, that would be cool, wouldn't it? KBS coming to you live from a crater on Venus. I'd get crushed down there. Even something my size would, I'd struggle with that pressure down there. It's crazy, you know. And that's why they call it Earth-like kind of conditions in the upper atmosphere. The pressure isn't quite as bad up there. I like my sunshine, folks, but dang, dude, that's a little bit close to the sun for my liking. I'm just saying. So, what else have we got in here? The Kecksburg crash. Bernaise sauce. That rings a bell. That rings a bell. Why does that ring a bell? Kecksburg crash. Let's see. Okay. Let's have a look at this. Let's bring us over here. That's kind of spacey alien type music, isn't it? Quite liking that. Quite liking it. The Kecksburg UFO incident occurred on December the 9th, 1965 at, funnily enough, Kecksburg, Pennsylvania, United States in North America, when a fireball was reported by citizens of 6 US states and Canada over Detroit, Michigan and Windsor, Canada. Astronomers said it was likely a meteor bolide burning up in the atmosphere and descending at a steep angle. NASA released a statement in 2005 reporting that experts had examined fragments from the area and determined that they were from a Soviet satellite. Maybe one of the ones that they tried to get up to Venus, right? But records of their findings were lost in the 1990s. Yeah, anytime you hear about NASA losing something, the X-Files has to get played. So it says, NASA responded to court orders and Freedom of Information Act requests to search for the records, and the incident gained wide notoriety in popular culture and ufology, with speculations ranging from alien craft to debris from the Soviet space probe Cosmos 96. There you go. Was a Soviet spacecraft intended to explore Venus. A 3MV4 spacecraft launched as part of the Venera program. Cosmos 96 was to have made a flyby of Venus. However, due to a launch failure, it did not depart low Earth orbit. Its entry into Earth's atmosphere is often, and it goes on to talk about that. Sorry folks, I had to turn around there. There's a bit of soccer going on in the background, bit of football. Bull Chelsea are winning, that's all I'm going to say. Bull Chelsea. So then, that was an interesting one. Who was talking about that? Big thank you to whoever brought that up. I think it was Bernaise sauce, wasn't it? Zoe says, all planets emit vibration audio too. Yeah, you can actually hear that. Sounds of planets. Spooky space sounds. Here we go. Turn the music off. Hang on. Okay, so what we got here? Sun sonification. It's pretty weird, right? Everything's frequency and vibration. Everything. That's why Nikola Tesla was trying to tell us. He was pointing us in that direction. Sounds of Saturn. Let's have a listen to that. Damn, dude. No, I know it's just radio signals and things like that. And who knows? Who knows? I'm just saying. This is the Voyager. Not that great, huh? Okay then, I take it back. What the heck? It sounds like whistling. Somebody whistling. Imagine you're out in space and you heard somebody whistling. How terrifying would that be if you're just sitting in the space station, it's eerie quiet, you know, you're watching things going on and then all of a sudden... That'd scare the bejesus out of me, that's all I'm saying. So we've got Juno. Space is a noisy place, huh? Ganymede. Ganymede was in the news lately, actually. Dang. We could sit here and listen to these things all day, right? But the bad news is, I've got a show to do. I have got the Kev Baker show to do in 15 minutes' time. Thank you. Whatever led us down that little rabbit hole at the end there, that totally complemented the information that we've gone over today. And just a quick recap before I come into the chat room. We've been talking about this big news here. Is there life floating in the clouds of Venus? Now, I mentioned the invisible, I'm going to write this down, invisible terrestrial entities, right? So I'm going to probably bring them up on the show tonight, but just to show you what I'm talking about. Antilles lens invisible. I should get it. Oh, there it is. That's the actual video. We'll watch just a little bit of this, folks. Just a little bit, and then I'll get going. We'll go and do the main show.
Our civilization, all the way to the time of this breaking news.
Hang on, folks. I'll refresh that. There was still noises from space going on there, and it freaked me right out. Here we go.
Since the dawn of our civilization, all the way to the time of this breaking news, we humans believed that everything that exists up there is only what we can see with our eyes and with our optical instruments. Well, things have changed now, because we have established the existence of entities existing in our terrestrial environment. And these entities are completely invisible to our eyes as well as to our optical instruments, but are fully visible with new instruments, therefore dramatically enlarging our conception of the perceivable universe with far-reaching possibility of future development and discoveries that perhaps are beyond our imagination at this time.
There you go. So we might play that again on the main show today. Very interesting, but there could very well be entities in our own atmosphere. Maybe that makes it a bit more believable that we could have entities living in other atmospheres. You remember, we think we know everything. In reality, it's like the light spectrum, potentially. You know, we've got so much on this side of what we can see, so much on that side of what we can see, and it makes up this huge spectrum, right? And sometimes you can get the night vision goggles or infrared, and you get a little glimpse some of the things going on. I think our picture of physics, science, it's very incomplete. Listen, it's cracking. I'm not taking away from any of the pioneers and inventors and trailblazers in science that got us to where we are today. How could I do that? We're sitting here using the kind of technology that was born out of mankind. However, it's good by our standards, but it could go way further. And life could take many, many different forms. Maybe the form we take isn't the best at all. Maybe this isn't the most advantageous because we're not even equipped to cope on our own planet with the radiations we face here, let alone going out into the solar system, or dare I say it, beyond. But maybe these things that have adapted and evolved and adapted to living in the atmosphere, maybe that's more advantageous. All I know is that I know very little at all, but that's why over here we've got one rule. We've got a couple of rules, but the main rule is I provide, you decide. And I hope you can all join me over on the main show today. 13 minutes from now. I need to get going, folks. I've barely got anything lined up. Okay, kind of lying there. I've got a few things lined up, some quantum stuff. I'm going to rant and rage a little bit at the start of the show. There's big stuff going on in the world. But I hope you can all make it over there for that. We'll be in Discord as well. And don't forget, after the Kev Baker show, if you're looking for somewhere to kick back, chill out, you know, throw up a hammock, smoke a big fat one, then head on over to the disco for the movie music night. No, I stand corrected. I hear Jules and Polly giving me grief right now. It's the media music night. We're nice so inclusive, us. You know, we don't want to just limit it to movies. We're woke. We're very woke over here. So I've made myself feel very sick by saying I feel very woke. So on that note, it's definitely time for me to love you, leave you, and leave you with this one last message. Keep your mind open. Keep looking for the woo, but not to the point where your brain turns to black goo. Oh yeah. I don't know, this is kind of foot tappy music, this, isn't it? Oh, liking it.